Okay. All right, I would like to call to order this special meeting of the Sylvania Township Board of Trustees.
Call the roll. Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Mr. Haddad?
Here.
Mr. Genowine?
Here. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. With that, I think I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Haddad.
Thank you. Right now we have with us, hooked up to the computer, is Mr. Early and his team to show us exactly what they were expecting to do with the county's plan. And I'm going to ask you, Keith, don't go into all the details, just give us a rough overview of what the system is. All right?
Okay, well, I'll try to keep it relatively short then. I think a lot of people, some people have heard this before, but the county stormwater utility is based on, the assessment will be based on hard surface area. Since hard surface is what causes the urban stormwater runoff, that is the most appropriate method of assessing it, and it is the most commonly used method. And the amount that residential property will be charged is $406 per month, or $24.36 per half, which is $48.72 a year. All residential properties will be charged the same amount. There will be no credits for residential properties. On larger subdivisions or non-residential properties, you can get credits. Non-residential properties will be charged multiples of the 5,500 square feet ERUs. So if you have 11,000 square feet, you get charged 2 ERUs. Can get credits up to 50%. Applications are needed and they have to do actual physical improvements or perform services to get those credits. It is, the stormwater utility is only for the 7 main townships in Lucas County. Those are the towns, the urban townships inside the Census Bureau's urban boundaries that are operators of municipal separate storm sewer systems. I did present information to the trustees before with slightly different numbers. I tried to get an estimate of what the numbers were before a meeting. Our consultant didn't give us the exact numbers, so Bob New would estimate the numbers. And at that time, we were estimating a total amount of $2.3 million, and Sylvania Township's share was estimated at $935,000. So these numbers are a little bit lower. I think these are closer to the amount we'll actually get. Sylvania Township's share under this is, I think, about 38%, or about 40%. We are, as part of the phase 2, we are required to reduce the discharge of pollutants to the maximum extent practicable to protect water quality, satisfy the appropriate water quality requirements of the Clean Water Act. At a minimum, we have to do 6 minimum control measures, and these are called 6 minimum MCMs. You can do more than that, and we expect to have to do more in the future. Like I said at the bottom, new more stringent regulations will go into effect. We committed to doing what we thought was the minimum at this point, and we do expect that it will be more in the future. Okay, this is a joint responsibility. We currently have a joint permit with the county of the 7 townships. We are all operators of municipal separate storm sewer systems. Sylvania Township has 130.65 miles of streets that they maintain. We have 30.81 miles of county maintained roads in Sylvania Township. And all of these drain to ditches and springs, and who's responsible for those is undetermined. There is no dedicated funding for it at this point. The county, we have county subdivision regulations. Our people review the subdivision plans and all the drainage improvements. We inspect all the improvements. We provide engineering services for the roads. Review the site plans. We are the floodplain administrator for the county. We are cooperating technical partners with FEMA, and we're working on a community weighting system where we hope to get 10% reduction in flood insurance premiums for all the property owners in the unincorporated part of the county. The stormwater utility would be organized under the county engineer's office. We don't intend to, at least initially, hire any new people. Ryan Miller here, PE, is our drainage engineer. He has 30 years of experience, most of it in drainage and highway design. He's been the manager of our stormwater program, where we've had to have a permit since 2003. Bob Newberg is a certified engineering technician and a certified survey technician. He does a lot of oversees our GIS work. We have interns working on the GIS. Bob works on that. Both of them help citizens when they have drainage concerns. Brian's designed a lot of improvements, such as recent improvements at Cobblestone and all those type of things. And, lots of drainage improvements over the years. So, and we use our department inspectors as needed. They are trained in the soil and water erosion techniques, and we utilize other agencies also. We did hire recently, just started this week, a environmental science intern, Ohio State student that's going to be working largely on our illicit discharge and detection program. We collaborate with a lot of other agencies. We, of course, work with the Stormwater Advisory Committee. We will be on this program. We have agreed that all the townships will be represented on that advisory committee. We contract with services from the townships, and we will on this project. Greg Huffman has done a lot of work on 10 Mile Creek. He had to fill out those force account forms and figure the costs. And we propose to the township can provide services better. They can continue to do that, and we'll pay them those force account rates from the stormwater utility. We worked with DMCOG and the Stormwater Coalition and the Floodplain Management Committee. So water conservation, also Jeff Barkovic's back here. He helps us out on a lot of the grading stuff and the erosion stuff. Other projects in the county. We're working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers through DMCOG and the City of Toledo and others to do a county-wide drainage study. It's how many $1 million is that? I
think it's $3 million, which we're going to be able to use in kind.
Yeah, about $3 million, and our share is going to be all in kind, we hope. So, and we work with the U.S. Geological Survey to have a lot of our streams
I should be able to do that.
studied. We paid, I think, our share has been $10,000 a mile. It cost $20,000 a mile to have those studies done. We had the streams studied where we expected flooding near development near the streams, and where we thought the current floodplain maps might be in error, so we could try to get people removed from the floodplain. We worked with the health department on the illicit discharge detection. Keep Toledo Lucas County beautiful for the litter cleanup and other things. Clean your streams, partners. Lucas County health departments, so sanitary engineers, building regs. We have a lot of partners in this, and we expect to continue utilizing all these partners. We believe they have experience in these various areas, and we can continue to utilize those a lot more economically than hiring new people. We believe all residents will benefit equally. We don't, even though Brian and I both live in Springfield Township, we don't give Springfield any better deal than Sylvania Township or anybody else. I think the cost will be lower if you share the expertise and you work on to develop the programs together. You train one person to do it over a larger area. I think your cost will be much lower than everybody trying to do on their own. So all residents will benefit equally from the floodplain management activities and the community rating system. The drainage improvements, which will benefit specific areas, we intend to distribute those proportionate to revenue collected in those areas. So if you live in the 10-mile creek watershed, 20% of the money comes from, more than that, 40% of the money comes from there. We intend to do 40% improvements. So we'll try it over a long period of time. We have to update our stormwater management plan every 5 years. It includes the 6 minimum control measures. Ryan will get into those in more detail later, and the cost of administrating and engineering is a pretty big part of it, and maintenance improvements. He'll try to break out the costs on all of those if you so choose. So at this point, these are all estimated costs based on our current program, and I'll turn it over to Ryan, since he's been running the program since 2003, to go through this part.
Yeah, that's pretty really quick. This is public education, and there's some of the people involved. Team Cog, the Good Water Hand Program, education. We're still using SWIC to do, and I think the township puts in probably we send the townships a newsletter each year on various things. It could be what's that?
You hear me?
Yeah, my voice varies. Kids always hear me. And we could send out about 2 or 3 to each township. It could be about grass cutting. It could be about where you're putting your oil or whatever, and you have toxins that we have pickups from that too. Also, then there's a public involvement, obviously, and we have various programs that we've been doing with that. Partners for Clean Streams, as you clean your streams, that Bob and I have been involved with ever since we had our stormwater management plan. She says, hey, you see this each year, so all of a sudden we get roped in. Some of the other townships that volunteered, Washington Township's been, who else goes in there? It's a big plan. There's 660 people that get involved, and it's all over, and they get all the tires and garbage out, but you gotta get a public involvement type program. We also, through that, we've done, there's a stenciling program that we've done, this county soil and water, that the county commissioners have. How much have they set aside, Jeff, for that program, for the green program? About 30,000 a year, or? Yeah, but there's money that the county commissioners have set aside for green programs, doing various things in that criteria. Illicit discharge right now, there's annual inspections of the outfalls. We're doing that right now. Obviously, we have a whole bunch of them. I think, what was that? 565?
Yeah, 364, and just in Sylvania Township.
Just in Sylvania Township. I don't know if we have the exact number of all of them. That's why we got to keep on looking. These are only from our records right now. What we have to do is also go out and find those ones that we don't have records of. We're showing everyone that we have records of, but we have to go out and hit our systems where we don't. We also have part of this illicit discharge, as he said, we have an intern, she's an environmentalist, her background, and she's doing her ID&D program. And she's using various other counties, looking at what they have, and then giving the criteria that we need to hit, so she's set up a program for that. We work closely with the health department on this. A lot involved with the health department when it goes in the sampling and the testing, if you find something. Construction site runoff, we work with soil and water with this on the sites. These are any of your subdivisions or your any site plan that you have that disturbs 1 acre or more has an NPDES permit, but also, if we had a smaller site, we want to make sure that they're still not doing, okay.
All right.
And then, let's go on the next one. And then post-construction obviously is, and that part of this post-construction cost, it shows it real low, but it'd be the people that are also, part of their cost would be inspecting these are the BMPs that they have to be in place. You're supposed to have some kind of monitoring system to make sure that these BMPs are acting like they are annual, that you're making sure that they place this, it's got to stay there and work the way it's supposed to. Pollution prevention, this is basically your garage operations, making sure those are, they have, salt their practices with salt, trying to keep the salt under control. Boy, not to go over all these things better than I can, but it's how you making sure your pollutants aren't getting into your streams,
right.
Their maintenance practices or whatever in GIS and other stuff. There's just our breakdown of our various costs. Those just studies could be from we're partnering with the Corps. There are studies that Keith did, like he talked about earlier, that we were paying for, the management. The loan reserves fund was something from the consultant that they set up that, here's our experience paying back loan for consultants that we have. And lastly, there are some of the kind of projects that we thought we could do with this. We figured with any kind of stormwater utility, you're going to have to do something. So there's street sweeping, cleaning, sewer cleaning that they do already. There'll probably be additionals that we do. There's detention ponds that need work, and they possibly place some regional detention ponds, and then some of the district improvements. That's just a small part of the logging. There's also regular cleaning.
Okay, thank you very much, because I just wanted to be brief to explain people what you guys were planning on doing. With that, I have Lynette Habletzel from the EPA. I would like her to speak because the people come from Columbus and they have to get back. So I would like you to come up here. Yes, come on up to the microphone. And that way you can explain what the EPA mandates for the stormwater management program are, and therefore we can get a brief description of that to the public.
Okay, well, I am Lynette Habletzel. I'm with Ohio EPA. I'm out of the Northwest District, and I'm the stormwater coordinator for the Lucas County area.
Do you have a card or anything?
I certainly do.
Okay. You can just get it to me afterwards, so I can look up your name.
I will do that. What this all stems from, of course, is the Clean Water Act, 1972. There were amendments in 87 regarding stormwater and the pollutants associated with stormwater. Basically, if we poorly manage our stormwater, we end up with poor water quality. So the mechanism to address this issue is the NPDES permitting system. The rules came out, or they were promulgated in 1999. As a result of this, in Ohio, we issued NPDES permits for municipal separate storm sewer systems, or MS4s, and those were issued in, first round was 2003. At that point, Lucas County, with surrounding townships and a couple of the incorporated areas, opted to become co-permittees, which was one permit application fee, one stormwater management program. What the permit requires is that the MS4 develop and implement a stormwater management program. I think Brian touched on the 6 minimum control measures. Basically, the focus of this program is to implement best management practices to protect or improve water quality, the discharges from the separate storm sewer system. How do we do that? We implement best management practices that are in these 6 minimum control measure areas: public education, public participation, illicit discharge detection, elimination, post-construction, during construction, the sediment erosion controls, municipal operations, how the MS4 conducts their day-to-day operations, whether it's road maintenance, whether it's the storm sewer maintenance, grounds and utilities, how those things are done, and what procedures or structural controls are implemented to prevent pollution from being discharged from those activities. The permit has minimum performance standards for each of these 6 minimum control measures, and that would be what the township would be held to, as well as, currently that's what Lucas County and the township is already being held to. I'm not quite sure if you have specific questions, or should I just touch on some of the discussions we've had, Kevin, about?
I would touch on some of the subjects that we've touched on to make sure that they understand what we need to do to be in compliance.
Okay. Basically, you have to develop and implement a stormwater management program, and the permit details what descriptions, what needs to be explained in this SWMP is what we call it. The minimum performance standards, like, the easiest one is probably the public education and information. That is, you have to reach a minimum of 50% of your population over the 5-year permit cycle. It needs to have more than one mechanism is used, not just brochures, not just pamphlets, but more than one mechanism. At least 5 different messages or themes, one of them targeting the development community. 5 public participation events over the course of the permit term have to be conducted. For illicit discharges, under that section, you need to have an ordinance in place that would allow you to prevent or to correct illicit discharges when you come across them. So you have an ordinance, you need to map your separate storm sewer system, and you have the 5-year permit cycle to complete that, which I believe finishes up in 2014, yes. So you're mapping not just your outfalls, this permit cycle, but also the whole conveyance system. You have to map all the post-construction stormwater management controls that have been installed since 2003. Home sewage treatment systems that are discharging to your MS4, those must be mapped as well. Outfalls must be screened at least visually once, all of them through the 5-year period. Under the construction program, you have to have an ordinance or similar regulatory mechanism in place to address construction sites, 1 acre and up, making sure they have sediment and erosion controls, non-sediment pollutant controls, whether it is concrete truck rents or debris from building. Have to do plan review all the plans for those elements, do inspections routinely and document those. Under the post-construction stormwater management, same thing. For any construction activity that's going to be disturbing 1 acre or more in the larger common plan of development or sale, there needs to be plan review to make sure there's post-construction stormwater management practices being installed. There needs to be a long-term program to make sure that these practices are maintained. And there's various ways to do that. We touched on the pollution prevention for municipal operations. Annual employee training is required. Best management practice for just how the municipality operates and maintains their separate storm sewer system, whether that's the covered salt storage, whether it's when you're cleaning out the catch basins, what do you do with the dewatered material? How do we manage these things so that they prevent or minimize stormwater pollution? So I think I roughly have covered that. I have been asked about can Sylvania be their own permittee and not be a co-permittee? That is certainly a possibility. In order to do that, they would need to submit a permit application, which would be our notice of intent form, which is a 1-page form, the $200 application fee, and a complete stormwater management program that meets all the permit conditions. Once that would occur, we review that plan. If it's acceptable, it meets the permit requirements, we would send a letter back to the MS4 saying, you've been granted permit coverage, and the day that you've been granted permit coverage, you would have to be implementing your stormwater management program and, be in compliance with the permit.
Any questions from the board?
Well, the one big question that comes to my mind is, I thought we were here to hear your plan, which would get us into compliance.
That is. We're getting there.
Okay.
I want to get this comment out.
Well, I understand the
So
requirements that are needed,
The public
and
does
I
not
appreciate you coming up here and giving us, an update in your professional opinion, but I still haven't seen the plan.
I'm going to explain that to you next.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Is anybody ever up to speed right now?
How many townships currently do their own stormwater in your jurisdiction or even in the state?
I can't speak to the state, although maybe Jason can, but within our district, Northwest Ohio has about 24 counties within our district. And the ones who are individual permittees at this point I have 3 or 4 in Richland County that are sole permittees. Lucas County has started out as co-permittees ever since the inception. Wood County, Ottawa County as well. Erie County, again, that's very similar to you guys. It's a co-permittee with the cities and the townships. Allen County, they were individuals when they started. They have since become co-permittees. Richland County and their townships have maintained as individual permittees.
Okay. How big of townships are they?
I could not give you a number.
John, I think they're billing out of the, correct me if I'm wrong, if you have any comment, but I don't think they're even able to bill through the county. They're billing it through the general funds, picking up that, because they're smaller counties with smaller smaller citizens in the township.
If I may, I talked to that a couple weeks ago, and one of the counties in Richmond is Madison County.
Okay.
And I called them and talked to them, and they're giving up on it and having the county do it, and you're right, there is no assessment, they just pay for it out of the general fund, but it's very minor. I want to say the township is 6,000 people, somewhere in
Okay,
that range.
all right, well, thanks, I thought, okay, good.
Thanks, Annette. Okay, now I will, as everybody has seen, what the county proposes, what the plan is, and what the requirements are by the EPA. The cost of the permit is $200. If we need to opt ourselves out, we could be out by the end of this year, because the biggest thing that the county has not emphasized is that there's 2 phases. Phase 1, which is preparing your plan. Phase 2 is the implementation of the plan. Phase 1 is the biggest cost. I predict the maximum cost of this, from everybody I've spoke to be around $200,000 cost to get the program up and running, to get in compliance with what they need and set up our stormwater management program from the township. As for maintaining the program through the years, it should cost us no more than $80,000 or $90,000 to maintain the program. The extra money, like the county's going to do, and we will do, is keep that in a fund to make sure our stormwater system is in good place, because we have that all mapped out. We will make sure that we are in compliance, making sure the creeks and the ditches are all cleaned and maintained. And the rest of the money will be in public education, which we would advertise through the Advantage, the Herald, Glade Neighbor section, pamphlets done through the chamber, everything else. Maximum initial cost of that should be around $40,000 or $50,000, and maintaining that should be less than $5,000 to $7,000 a year. $10,000 max. So you've heard the EPA compliance. The total budget which I planned on having would be approximately $480,000 to $500,000 maximum per year, collected through this fund, and the fund would be about $2 to $2.25, which would equate to $24 to $25 maximum per year once we get the system going. If everything gets in place the way I predicted and planned it to be, in the next 3 years, since we're going to be starting out as our own sole proposal, starting in 2012, will last us to 2017, because we'll be out of the county system by the end of this year. We would totally be opted out. As Mr. Gerken said, he wanted to have the numbers by the end of this month, because he needs to let the auditor know who to collect from and what to collect from. We would need to tell the auditor the same thing, that we would need to start collecting our own funds by the end of this year too, under the same assessment. So therefore, that's what the budget would entail. That's what the program entails. The maximum cost of this whole system, including buying equipment, having an engineer do this for us, whether we use a PECE from a private firm or employ the county to do it through them, the maximum cost of that should be, maintaining the program should be about $10,000 a year.
2 questions, if I could.
Sure.
One is, would there be a charge from the county for all the work that they've done up front? Looks like they had that in their budget. And I was kind of hoping, don't take this in a negative way, but last week when I mentioned to you about providing a business plan, I appreciate all your verbal stuff and all the work that you're doing. I was kind of hoping the public and everybody could see the breakdown on how this thing is broken down, so we've got some real hard numbers. I think, from what the county's proposed, it looks like they've got some hard numbers up there. I was kind of hoping...
Ours is 1/7 of that.
It sounds like it is. I just looking for some hard numbers on it.
First of all, the EPA requirement is only to require to take care of urban areas. Part of the township doesn't even qualify to be an urban area. There's other townships that have no urban properties at all in them, and that's why they're not in a coalition like Richfield and these other townships, because they're not required. So when you take the urban portion of the township, it's a little bit more than 2/3. When you go out to west, past Henny's house over on her road in that area, it's all suburban, and that's really not in the stormwater management program. It takes care of hard surfaces. Yes, there are some businesses that need to be in compliance. There's a lot of people that need changes. I've also been in contact with the Soil and Conservation District, which we just gave $3,000 to, and we said what we're going to do with them. They would help us in mandating some of these things and working with the businesses to correct them. Also, the architect who designs any new structures or buildings or homes or in this area, in the urban portion, these people would make sure they're in compliance when they build these residences and businesses, to make sure that they're mandated to do that, and that's their cost, not ours. And if they're not in compliance, that's their penalty and their fine, not ours as a township. We're only required to make sure that this is maintained and that we educate the people not to dump their oil that they change for the car from down in the ditches, not to throw stuff down the sewer, to make sure the grates, which, nothing against the county personally, but there's a lot of grates that still have crap on them from the winter that have not been cleaned out, and we're getting debris down in the sewers. But those are things that we need to take care of, and that would be mandated through this program to make sure water is flowing smoothly. Last but not least, I would just tell you one thing, is sediment. That's where the soil and land conservation people would come in, and they'll make sure there's not any settlement going back into the streams and creeks to keep that
I'm
minimized.
not doubting how much you know and how much
Sure.
hard work you've done on this. I guess if you were, just throw it in the business world, if you were to
Sure.
go to a bank for your business, and you wanted to borrow money from the bank, and what I thought you were providing today was a business plan for the people. And I see
I
a lot of-
answered all the questions that were in
But
this.
okay, I guess I misunderstood what we talked about on last Tuesday. I was hoping that we would see a little more.
I really
of the
don't
details
want
that
to
we
say
could
something
provide.
negative, Mr. Mahoney, but this is not a business. This is a government, and it's run by these people sitting out here. These people pay you tax dollars, and it's their money that implements these programs and pays for all the stuff that we do as a government. And if we're going to run this as a business, then we need to get out of the government business and stay in the business then, because without their tax dollars and their input, we have no business sitting up here, any of us.
Well-
So I'm going to say, let's open it up for public comment.
Well, we're not finished yet here, so let's get to our business
Go ahead.
first, and then if we want to invite the public to comment, we can. Again, like Mr. Mahoney, I was hoping to see something in writing, but I don't have anything. One of the several questions
Here's
I
the writing
asked.
right there.
Okay, I didn't know this was mine, it
Yes,
was laying on the
yes.
table.
And Mr. Mahoney, I gave him a
I
copy
reviewed it
too.
already, yeah, thanks.
One of my questions last week was, is the county going to let us out?
Mr. Gerken said that we could opt out if we chose to at a meeting. It's up to the other two trustees to agree with him, or commissioners to agree with him or not.
Is that an accurate statement?
I don't have the ability to let the township out, as you know.
I-
We've never been asked.
Okay.
We have to do that.
So, Mr.
formally.
Haddad, let me clarify this. Mr. Haddad has never contacted you to ask you personally that if Sylvania Township withdrew, that you would let us out. Is that a correct statement?
Right.
No, because I asked you at the LCIC meeting, and you said if you wanted to opt out, you can opt out.
You have to have a board resolution.
But you did say that we could do that, correct? You did not say that to me.
No, sir, I said there's a process in place that if the trustee board is requesting commissioners to remove themselves from the district, that's the process that has to happen.
But correct, but we did say that we could opt out, correct or not? If we put the process in place, you did say we could opt out, correct?
You could appeal to the board.
Right, right.
You could appeal to the board.
But you did say to me personally that you guys want to opt out, opt out. You did say that, Pete. I will tell you that you did say that to me to my face.
You know that, you asked about the process.
But I didn't ask about the process. I said, can we opt out? You said, you want out? Let us know, we'll get you out.
At this point, we haven't been asked.
Right.
Thank
Okay,
you.
let's move on.
The
Okay.
next question I had is, and I saw a legal opinion on this yesterday, does the township have the ability to assess residents for this?
Yes, we do. I'll present that at the end of this.
I know our legal counsel is here. Would you care to elaborate on that statement?
Homewood Township certainly have the authority to regulate stormwater. The statute that gives them that authority does not include a section which allows for an assessment. Certainly, the township can use general fund. They could put on a ballot on the levy to increase the general fund to pay for that. There certainly is no provision for an assessment for stormwaters. If there is another process, Kevin and I spoke briefly.
I have it, and I'll
about
show you at the end of the meeting my process, because that's my ace in the hole, and we'll talk about it when we're all done here.
Well, let's talk about it.
No, I
because
want to
this
bring it
is-
up at the end because I want public comment now. You told me to run the meeting, I'm running the meeting. Now I want to open up for public comment, 3 minutes apiece.
Did you have other comments, Mr. Burrow?
No, just to reiterate, there's no process for
Correct.
assessment.
Correct.
What you would need in order to put any kind of a thing on, for the county auditor in charge, you would need a statutory authorization to do that.
I'll show you that in a bit, after we have public.
Certainly,
comment.
we'd be happy to look at anything you have.
I'll show it to you.
Okay. And then, lastly, I saw what the county, again, for the fourth time, what their plan was. But again, I haven't seen your plan in terms of getting in compliance with those 6 steps with the EPA.
That
And
would be outlined in the proposal, that costs money for somebody to engineer that and send us to the,
Well, as you know, we're running out of time. We've got 6 months before the end of the year. We've got till August sometime to get it to the auditor if we plan on getting it on a tax bill. So, I mean, I've never been opposed to your plan, ever. But in my own opinion, I thought that you were deceiving the public in letting them believe that we could get this done in this short a period of time. And that has been my concern all along.
I don't deceive the public about anything. I research it myself personally, which a lot of other people do not do politically, period. I have researched this to the max. I've given you the basis of how we can do it. It's possible to be done, it's probable to be done, and it will be done if you so choose to go that route. Second of all, I'd like to hear some of the people in the public discuss what their opinions are and questions about it. And let's hear that. We'll open that up for about 15 minutes, and then I'll finish it up.
Do we want to put a time limit on public comment?
Well, if it gets lengthy, yes, we will, and if it doesn't, then we won't, so, you know.
And again, Kevin, I know you, as John mentioned, you're kind of running the show here, but before we maybe bring public comment out, wouldn't it make sense just to go ahead and finish what you wanted to say?
Yeah, how
So we just-
can the public comment on your plan if no one's seen it yet, or shown how you can charge for it, or anything? I mean,
Yeah, let's maybe-
we all have a hard time wrestling with this, and if you could clarify,
I will show
again,
you.
we're all in favor of
Yeah, I mean, I'm-
saving money and doing the right thing for the residents, but right now, we've got nothing. We've got a county plan, which I've had from day one.
1 minute. Bring this up for you. I need you guys to be disconnected from this thing. Am I up there? Good. Okay. Here is a work in progress right here. Deerfield Township, Kings Mills, Ohio, is the one next to Kings Island. Here is their proposal of how they collect their stormwater fee in detail. They've come up with a plan. They're a township the exact same size as ours. They started theirs in August of '06. They adopted a stormwater fee by a district. They formed a little board. The board adopted the fee. It was sent out to the residents. That's how we collect per ERU. And that's how it can be done, and it will be done if we so choose to go this route. As of collecting it as a separate assessment, like we talked about other things, we don't have the authority to do that, but we are a home rule township just like they are. We can do the exact same thing. It's www.deerfield, without an E after deer, fieldstormwater.com. It's their whole program, it's their whole proposal, it's how they do the whole thing themselves as a similar sized township. So the fee can be collected as a township through taxes. It will be on it like a mosquito spray or anything else because we're forming our own district. This money will be payable to the township through the auditor's office. We will be able to collect the fee, get our program totally in place. We'll have to borrow from the general fund to get the system started up. Our proposal sent to the EPA. Once it's approved, we should be ready to go before. We have 6 months' time. It should take us no more than 3 to 4 months' time. 5 on the outside to get the program going. There's a collection, which if we would do my $2 per month per ERU, that's 24. If we do 220, it comes up to $25, which I think is necessary. Plus all businesses, because they would be rated in ERUs too for surface size. Example, Myers, Kmart, and the other places over there. Kroger's. Once we start the assessment process and we get moving on it and things get going and we can start collecting this on our residents and we get the program going and we see how much we need to go, we'll be in good shape. But it is possible. They did an average of 3,407 square feet is one ERU that their township averaged out. So it is possible. It's probable. Here's a work in order. They've been doing it since '06. This is '11. They've been doing it for 5 years. We can do that ourselves and save our taxpayers money. Nothing against the county, but, and I don't want to knock the newspaper when they said, you know, we believe government is taking money from somewhere and spreading it around. I don't believe in that. I believe that if everybody's paying equally and we spread it around, then equally. I talked to Keith about this earlier. I said, if there's 7 districts in it, why aren't all 7 collected equally, $400,000 per district? That will give even a little bit more money. Yes, it's less cost on my residents, but then I don't care what you do in my area because then you can do equalization. He says they can't do it that way because we have to do it on residents with the ERUs. Then let's collect our own ERUs from our own people and spend our money in our area. And since we're in compliance, we're okay. So there it is in a nutshell. If you go here, it talks about their water quality. We would have this on our new website that we're getting through ACT. It shows you the guidelines, the reports, all the things. The group would meet, if we set up a district here, the group would meet on a regular basis, talk about how they should maintain things. It's going to be a volunteer group. It talks about illicit discharges. It's all here in a nutshell. And this is one act in working, which I did study some of this. I did speak to a couple engineers about this. And here's a working plan for a $200 fee for what we need to do to get in compliance. The maximum cost should be $200,000 because the proposal and the plan that we have to put together is a lot of work.
Could you dig a little deeper
I can
into where
get
that $200,000 is coming from?
Yes, I can get that off for you.
Well, not get it all for us. We've been waiting for it for a month. So
You haven't been
when we
waiting for a
come to a
month.
meeting and we call people and we call people's time in, and we're all here waiting for it, and I think it's
Oh, I'm on
only
side.
appropriate that you would unveil as much information as you have instead of stringing us along.
I'm not stringing
And
you
I'm
along.
impressed and I'm hopefully encouraged by that we might be able to do this and save our residents money.
Right.
But still, I haven't
Can't
seen
think of
enough
it.
substance to do anything but to stay in the county's plan right now. But again, if you continue to show us what we've got and things, I'm all for working with you.
With that, Penny, do you want to come on up and explain to them what the money's justifiably spread out between?
You guys have anything to add on?
Well, the
Well, let's
only
get some public comment and then we can
No,
have
let's
a
hear,
at the end.
let's hear an
Why?
answer to this, though. Please, I wouldn't mind hearing. That's up on the wall. We've got the attorney here that's got 30 or 40 hours tied up into this, and we've got John who's got a lot of hours tied up into this, so I'd like to know what,
it was a Deerfield Township?
Yes.
Their bill was, their amount was actually on a water and sewer bill, not the tax bill. And some townships have their own water and sewer area where they bill. At this point, and we're going to do more research and talk to Jim Shaw, the township doesn't have a water or sewer bill that we send out, and it's either through the county or through the city of
Sorry,
Toledo.
take it out of this now.
And it doesn't, it's interesting to see, it doesn't quite explain what they're assessing and what they're doing with it. So we'd have to, I wouldn't call the township and get some more information exactly what you're doing. But as John said, yeah,
It's
they're,
not
it's,
taxable.
it's,
I can't
yeah, it's part of their water and sewer charges. So, we'd have to look and see how that would work in this township since you don't have a water and sewer district. So,
We did, they got rid of it, we could put it back in place.
excuse me?
We had one, they took it out, Dee Dee and Pam took it out.
That only covered, out in that one road. That was very limited.
But I'm saying though, we could reenact one in the whole district and do our own, but we would not be able to collect anything other than that fee.
Well, it's a little bit of a complicated process to
Correct.
saturate a water and sewer district because the county provides
Right.
water and sewer, so. And so does the city of Sylvania, so we'd have to have both.
Yeah,
of
wouldn't
them.
the city of Sylvania and the city of Toledo have to approve getting out of their water district?
Under
I don't know, Jeff's here.
Yeah, under 514, there is a process that we'd have to go through, which would probably, if my experience is the same when they set up the regional water and sewer district out there, it would probably end up in court. There's a process you have to go through. Ultimately, it ends up in court if you can't agree. But it would take, it would to some extent take the permission of both the city and the county. I don't think Toledo, but certainly the city, Toledo also? Yeah. So it would probably, let me say, it could go, it could possibly set one up, but it's not going to be done in 6 months. The regional water and sewer district took 2 years of litigation before they set that up. We were in court almost 2 years on that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ralph? What I'm hearing is to set up a water and sewer district for the township only, the process would it not, would it or would it not include them basically disconnected? Mr. Shaw? From the district.
They could set up their own district and then work out some kind of agreement with the city and the county. They wouldn't necessarily have to have their own water source.
Right, so they have to negotiate rates and charges
With the city and the county and Toledo. Yeah.
so with Kevin's plan is X, and then we would then have to pay for water and sewer discharge.
I would just suggest that maybe Google it. I think we have a good water and sewer system up and running. It has an established billing system that's legally defensible and has been operating. I understanding from the plan that Mr. Haddad's produced that now you need to set up two things. a stormwater district and a water and sewer district. I'm not aware of the township's ability at this point to bill, which is always a huge cost to me. You have to build a billing system. Don't see the answer on that. A collection system that has some teeth to it, and obviously if you don't pay any water and sewer bill, you get your water turned off. If you don't pay the property tax, going to some tax delinquent foreclosure, there doesn't seem to be an ability to enforce as described, and I'm curious as to the mapping piece of this. Properties change hands, properties change, and one of the ongoing challenges, of course, of these districts and utilities is the technical data side and the mapping. At some point, you would have to certify that you have the correct addresses to collect from, and you would have to map the ERUs in a fashion that's legally defensible. And having had some of those experience, that's a costly and difficult task. Any taxpayer could challenge then the ERU assessment. I have a strip mall down on the corner here, and you say I've got 50 ERUs, and I say I only have 45. So there is a cost to mapping those things accurately. One of the challenges that even the county district has as we move forward is a lot of our data is more than a year old right now, both on properties and on mapping. But in our budget, we have set aside money at the final piece to make sure before we go to the auditor that we scrub that data. I got to get good data to the operator and the auditor. And I'm sure in Sylvania Township, just like everywhere else, properties have changed hands in years. So this is not a snapshot in perpetuity. This is a managed process. It needs dedicated billing, it needs dedicated enforcement, and it needs dedicated and ongoing mapping and data collection, which the county can provide to all the named communities in a system that's available now. Do not require use of duplicate systems or a duplicate water and sewer system. And we seem ready to go on this. I will respect the will of the township trustees. So if they want to petition the commissioners to be released, that is the vote of this board and your citizens. Also, and Lynette didn't touch on this, maybe she wasn't asked, but generally my interactions with the EPA as well as Mr. Shaw and Mr. Hurley is that they're encouraging communities to go to broader administrations of this. And I think if the EPA had their way, they'd like to see a watershed system in place, not just a county system in place. So certainly, maybe your conversations with the EPA is different than the ones that 3 or 4 of us have had over time that actually encourage us to form cooperative districts, spread that cost off, and have the district be accountable.
Okay, well, I have to disagree with our council. I pulled up the Deerfield Township website, and it specifically says they're under Warren County Water and Sewer. Under the utilities by themselves that they pulled up, they have nothing at all that says that they have a water district there. And during when I'm looking at their Public Works Department, they only have sewer and stormwater, so I'm sorry.
That was one thing I was going to caution, is that what I've said, I base it on just reading part of that thing you had up on the
I know,
board.
but I'm reading here what they have, and that's all through the county, it's not through themselves.
I would suggest if the trustees want to go forward with this, we could certainly contact, John and I can contact Deerfield
Right,
Township.
because it says they only manage sewer lines like we do too.
Right, find out exactly what they do and how they've done it. It wasn't entirely clear from there what they did, so.
But they're not on their own, they're through Warren County. So you know that. I just researched it now. So it is possible, they can collect it. I don't see anything that says they have their own water sewer system there, they're going through Warren County, so we would just have to do that as a separate entity from the county, and it's possible to do that. Unless their website's wrong. Okay, let's go to public comment. Yes, Ms. Levine. I'm not rude, but I gotta go to the bathroom.
Penny Levine, 3753 Her Road. First of all, I might as well hand this stuff out here. This is from the Ohio Revised 12 explaining all water utilities, sewer, and such as that. It also touches base with home rule government and what they can do and what they can't do. Also, I'm getting this in. First of all, over the last almost 4.5 years, because of water issues ignored within the township to the north and also to the west, we spoke loud enough, the county heard us, engineers heard us, the attorneys heard us, and business owners and residents met with them, and needless to say, soon after, including other townships with the same kind of problem, but not to the maximum that we had incurred, formed the Stormwater Advisory Committee, which I've sat on now for 4.5 years, as a resident representing Savannah City and Savannah Township. There was a February 2011, I think, PowerPoint that had been given, I think, to the trustees. As a committee member, I did not get that, but Jim Shaw did send that to me on last Friday. My question to the county is still, is there a breakdown on price to warrant what the 2.1 or 2.3 costs are? And I mean actual breakdown of cost for that engineer or any of those people. Also, did the township trustees sign an agreement in 2009 as part of the permit for the county program for the years 2009 through 2014? Even prior to really sitting down and going over where we're at today, and it's 2011. If so, are we locked into the county stormwater district? Can you opt out with no penalty and then opt in if you choose to do so at a later date? If you opt out, does the county continue to maintain what county roads they maintain now throughout the township? Besides cleaning out the debris and ditches in the 10 mile, is shoring up the sides where it may be needed, included in the county program. Not just cleaning out debris, which the township did quite efficiently to my standards, and I'm picky, for $50,000, needless to say, back in 2009. Thanks to Greg Huffman and his guys and women's hard work, they accomplished that for 50 grand. Township, if other counties, this is to our township, if other counties opt out, doesn't that increase our 40 to 45% or 50% in order to cover the costs of the county program on that top portion? What is it, the phase 1 or the phase 2 top portion, the NPDES and the EPA standards and all of that action that takes place in that category? Also, Mr. Haddad has investigated this issue, which I thank him and appreciate.
Thank you.
Mr. Genowine, who's been on the board for 1.5 years, and Mr. Mahoney, 6 months. Have you investigated or searched other programs or devised a plan for the township since this has been discussed, and you have had several meetings with county officials over the past years, instead of just Mr. Haddad searching and investigating? How will the township fund the EPA and PDES commitment of the $2.3 million program? As of now, our share is 40 to 45% of that number every year, which is $850,000 to $900,000, okay? And how will you replenish the township coffers? On top of that monetary commitment, you will be taxing residents, agricultural, schools, businesses, churches, etc. The ERU formulas used by the county at 5,500 feet per 1 ERU unit at 5,500 square feet or less. For example, Meyer is 17 ERUs, okay, and that's without a credit, is $8,472.31 a year they will be taxed, or $706.44 per month. That I understand. They have a lot of runoff. That runoff creates pollutants. They have a large parking lot. They also have large square footage. So that's 956,439 feet times $4.06. Maximum total credit break, okay, is up to 50%, as Mr. Early said. Bioretention ponds, rain gardens, dry or wet swales, etc., and any changes to qualify for the credits required by EPA is also a cost to those business owners. And I feel I do not want to chase business owners away. The economy is horrible as it is now, and a lot of people unemployed. that will wind up having to pay these costs to be a part of this program or any other. I've researched also the City of Sylvania's program, which the cost per property owner is 35 cents a foot, front footage. Same for residential and commercial. Ditches are maintained and culverts and the 6 control measures are followed. It costs them $242,000 per year to run their program. Special projects, detention ponds, erosion, etc. are addressed to keep up with the minimum standards. Payroll for this work is billed and paid for through Streets Department, maintenance and inspection also. Testing, EPA done by the city quarterly, and the EPA done by the city quarterly, and the EPA has come out 1 to 2 times a year to test. Handled through engineering, Jeff Ballmer, is the control issues, and he spends 2 to 3 hours a month addressing control issues. Needs to say also the education aspect in publicizing. Control measures they use is the Journal, notifies the public, the Herald, the Advantage, the Blade, their newsletter, and their website. The difference they transferred from money from sewage when they started up was $80,000 to handle a storm sewer. This is based, I'm almost done.
Let her finish.
This is based on how many cubic foot of percentage of water which is used throughout the city per month. Balances around $600,000 in their coffers to pay for and assist with special projects. And I will hand you what I've estimated with what our miles are in the township at 130 and what Lucas County miles are. Since you have to hit and tax both sides of the roads, I've doubled those figures. This is approximately what I'm proposing, but I still feel the ERU unit is better because of our large businesses that we have in the township, and to be fair, and also our farming district that the city does not have. But here's just one for giggles, needless to say, the stormwater estimated frontage by foot in our property.
Thank you.
I think we're all concerned about the impact to our businesses. But, they're already paying these fees, and it's not just, pass it along, but they are already paying these fees to have their businesses in the city of Toledo, in the city of Oregon, in the city of Maumee. And so I don't think these types of charges hit them by surprise. But again, if we can devise a better way and build a better mousetrap, I think this board is for it. We want to do what's right for our citizens. It's unfortunate that we have to have a public meeting where all of us are taken back by the information that we're gathering. I mean, certainly when our administration and our staff spends countless hours, and certainly the county engineers and the sanitation engineer and the county commissioner have spent umpteen hours on this project. If you've got good information, let's share it. Let's get it out there.
Right.
Let's see what we can do. But, I feel like I've been sandbagged this whole time, and because otherwise we could have looked at the, Deerfield Township.
Look, John, I guess I'd like some answers to my question. What proposals have you brought to the table, or Mr. Mahoney?
Penny, I have been under the assumption that we are under a binding contract with the county. So,
And signed by whom?
otherwise, and Mr. Gherkin himself said that he has not been approached and asked that point direct question. So, I adhere and acknowledge a contract. And this contract was entered into by the previous board in 2009. So.
Thank you, very little, yes.
Penny, one thing I appreciate all your effort with this, and I think maybe this might be something for you and Kevin to strive as a citizen and as a trustee next year to go ahead and get a plan devised for something to consider 2 years from now. But we're at the end of the road here. I mean, we don't have a whole lot.
Well, I want an answer too. How are we going to replace our coffers?
We're not. You're talking about.
Replace the funds that get taken out to pay that 45 to possibly 50%. On top of the manual work at $4.06 on an ERU.
When she's done and you're done, I've got something else to say. Go ahead.
Okay, so if you remember my questions, I can answer.
Well, the answer is I don't have a good answer for it because I believe that it was going to be on the tax roll from the county and that we're not going to go ahead and start administrating a billing company and a billing system for us to go ahead and do that internally.
We have the auditor. to do
Hold on,
that.
Kev.
We have the auditor.
We've got a lot of hours from our employees that we ought to be working on. How are we handling sticks? How are we handling our budgets? How are we handling fire stations? How are we dealing with the police? How are we dealing with where we're investing our monies? We have spent a lot of horsepower in our township, our employees, a ton of horsepower. And with all due respect, you're so knowledgeable in this, and you know a lot more about this than I do, but you've not come with a plan. You've not come with a plan. I'm following the plan with the county, and I'm really done with it. I don't know what else we need to do other than to keep...
I guess after all this time, Mr. Mahoney, what I'm asking
I'm
is,
going to make this very simple for you when Penny's done and you're done, and I'm going to ask Don Feller to come up for one brief minute. Don, just explain that you have done Northwood's plan for themselves, correct?
But again...
But I mean, Don, you do that for them? Do you think the estimated cost that I've been estimating is approximately correct? Yes or no?
I'd say, yeah, ballpark.
So there we go. So we're not going to be like, I'm not just throwing numbers out of my head.
I don't disagree with one bit of your numbers. I disagree with the timing and how much time we've had to produce these documents.
We've only had a minimum amount of time because this was just proposed by the county a couple months ago. That's it. For us to be in this
I guess my worry is how are we going to afford this if we take part in the
Because
county?
once we're in the county, I guarantee you, nothing against the county, anybody who lives here knows the facts that once we're in the county's going to go up. We're going to end up paying double in less than 5 years. This $48 is just a mythical number to begin with. When we're done, we're going to be paying over $100 a year per household. I guarantee it. It's about money. They need money. The county's broke. We all know that. And we're going to be going from there. So you guys do what you have to do. I'm just telling you that we can do it. It's doable in 6 months. If you guys just want to play the safe way like we did with the garbage system, let the county take that over too.
I think this is a good opportunity, like you said, like I'm saying.
what you wanna do.
We've got a nice opportunity for you to start a plan, and a good plan, a business plan, that's something that we...
Once we're in, you're not going to be able to get out, I guarantee it.
Well, we're in. That's the problem, Kevin, is we're in.
We could ask to be out now and be out in less than 6 months with our proposal all set together, but if you choose not to do that, we don't have to.
I'd like to speak to Tim sometime.
Mr. Early, please, take the floor. Yes.
Well, I'd like to say, we've been doing the program for nothing, up till now, 2009. I mean, whatever cost you, the level of service is proportional to the amount of money that you collect. And I don't know, when that has commented on how great she thinks our program is, or how great it is, or how great a lot of these others are across the state. But we developed the cost on what water quality is important. I think we all want to protect our streams and ditches, and we do want to do a certain amount of maintenance to have money to do these things. And this utility, however much money is collected, it will be used strictly for stormwater purposes. It isn't going to subsidize the road and bridges, even though we have been subsidizing the stormwater for quite some time. And we need money to all agree. I mean, our budget is the same as it was 11 years ago, and costs are going up 50%. We spent $4 million on Sylvania Avenue, $3 million on the court, going to do another $3 million on the court south there. Yeah, this benefits the citizens of Sylvania Township, but we're not going to subsidize the roadway stuff from these stuff. It'll be used strictly on stormwater things. And I don't think you can do less, and you can probably get by with less for a while, and EPA may not fine you for a while. EPA did send out notices that they're going to be doing testing on 10 Mile Creek here soon, and they put out total maximum daily loads on that. So what the requirements are going to be in the future, I don't know, but we developed a program that we thought would do the things that we needed to do, and we looked at the best management practices that some of the other people are doing. And I know Warren County, I know Neil Truson, he's the county engineer there. They have a countywide, they have a county stormwater utility.
That's what I proposed.
A county?
Yes, I proposed that. I'd rather have the whole county in one stormwater.
Well, I mean,
Then I don't care.
it's for the phase 2 areas. For the phase, they have it just, it's very similar to Lucas, I think. I'll talk with Neil again. He's chairman of our drainage committee.
Okay.
And he's been the one that's had a lot of these conferences that we've been going to for the last 6 or 7 years. He's been a speaker at a lot of these. And so, and I don't know, maybe that's the same amount, and I know that county, a lot of the other are currently, they've been charging since 2003, I think. And they're charging, a lot of them are charging about that rate. And I'm not going to be able to raise it in the future. We've been getting by with zero for this fund. So whatever you do, I mean, I think if you look at, and I strongly disagree with your comment that the large part of the cost is developing the program. If you do the program right, the big part of the program is operating the program. I think Lynette would certainly agree with that. If you're going to do these things right, if you do the sweeping that you're supposed to do, you do the IDD program like you're supposed to, and everything else, it costs a whole lot more money to operate the program than it does to set up. I know consultants have set up a lot of these for villages and cities, and they set them up for a relatively small amount. But that is not the cost of doing all the services that you have to provide. And this is the cost of providing the services, and we didn't have much at all in there other than you got to do the figure the ERUs and all that, which is a considerable amount of money, but on an ongoing basis, it's a relatively small amount of money. So,
Well, not to interrupt you, but when I spoke to Greg Hoffman about the money that we spent just taking care of 10 Mile Creek and the ditches, and then when I looked at, when you said to me, and nothing against you again, you said that we haven't had that much of a flooding problem. Well, number one, we have had no flooding problem this year due to the cleanup they've done, and we've had the snowiest February in history. We had the second rainiest April in history. So with those two amounts in mind, we haven't had the problems we had in '06 when it all backed up because of no cleanup at all.
You did not have near, the watershed events for a certain watershed is based on the size of the watershed, the amount of time it takes to get from the most remote point to that. You did not get a 100-year storm last year, it was more like a 10-year storm. And we had we did these H&H studies that USGS did. And if you don't increase, I mean, if you get a log jam, it'll create localized flooding for a short distance unless you've got high banks or culverts that's blocking. It's going to run out around it. Those are worth doing, and they need to be doing the ongoing maintenance, but that is not going to eliminate a flood like occurred in the 2006, 2008, and it's not going to remove those homes from the floodplain. I mean, what we were estimating was a study done by the USGS and approved by FEMA and done to the standards that would eliminate, remove those homes from the floodplain. And we haven't done a cost-benefit analysis to know if we're doing that, which probably not. But it's not.
Well, I'm gonna stop you, Keith, because we
you
can go on
got the
and on.
problem solved.
No, I'm just saying, we could go on and on about all the problems and everything. This boils down to one thing for me primarily. A, we can do this ourselves. B, we can do it in 6 months. If the other two trustees don't agree, that's their problem. Number 3, the most important thing that I'm concerned about is a lot of people are going broke. And how much more can we tax our residents before they're bankrupt and they're all out of this area? As you know, Toledo's half of what it used to be 10 years ago. We're getting down, and it's like, let's just keep asking for more money. We have to find better ways to ask for more money, and you haven't provided a better way in my
I
estimation.
did figure out on the size of the ERU and the size of the residential unit is based on the statistical, you measure the
I understand that.
area number.
I understand that.
And so yours, I don't know what Sylvania Township by itself is, but if you did use their rate, it was 3,000 some square feet.
3,700 square feet.
3,700, okay, so it's their business is going to be over $3 that you're going to be charging businesses. The amount you're charging businesses ain't going to be much smaller.
I know.
Because we are using much more.
Correct. Okay. Another public comment, then we'll go to Mr. Gerken. We have 2 other people that want to speak. Go ahead, Doug, and then Carol. And then we'll let Pete speak and we'll finish it up.
Hi, my name's Doug Beat. I live in Sylvania Township. My address is 2940 Springwater Drive. Thank you for having this forum this afternoon. Thank you to the trustees for being here, Lucas County, and the EPA. You know what? It's not the money that scares me. It's having Lucas County come into my township. I moved out of the city of Toledo 22 years ago to get away from what's happening in Toledo right now. And if your Lucas County was so great, why is Toledo going down and Sylvania Township going up? Why are you here today, Lucas County, trying to sell us on something Mr. Gerkens or someone else says we're already a part of? Why are you selling this so hard? I would rather pay more money to Sylvania Township and run our own program than be involved with Lucas County. You run the roads very well. Thank you. You keep the snow off them, you put the salt on them, and that seems to be a problem too, where the salt goes. But I would recommend to Mr. Genowine, Mr. Mahoney, this isn't about money. It's about keeping us separate. I'm out here to be separate from everyone else.
Please refrain from clapping.
Yeah,
It is, but clapping's not part of it.
Several years ago, I got a Dee Dee Lydell Town Talk, or whatever it is, it comes over the email. And in there, she was talking about several years ago with this flood that we had. And she talked about taking $100,000 or so and cleaning out ditches. She says this is something that we've neglected for a long time, but from now on, we're going to try to put some money toward that and clean them out. And I believe that's still going on today. Is that correct?
Correct.
I only know my information on this Lucas County proposal they're having here by what the blade prints, and I brought a couple things that were sent here. Brian Miller, drainage engineer with the Lucas County Engineer Office, said that the fees will also cover engineering fees, ditch cleanup, sewer cleaning, and street sweeping. We already do most of that. We're cleaning our ditches. We sweep our streets. What more do you want us to do, other than what the EPA in Ohio is directing us to do? We need to keep Sylvania Township separate. I have a warehouse in the city of Toledo. My water bill there runs $400, including sewer. My water runoff is $4,000 a year. I don't like it. But if we come out here and you take a moment, I've got to switch gears here. You're talking we don't have much time. It seems to me these EPA mandates you can get extensions on. It's something about 1987 is when you had some reenactment of the Clean Water. Well, that's quite a few years ago. Why is it so important today it has to be done in 6 months? Ask for an extension. I want to challenge the three of you here today. The question came up whether we'd ever ask Mr. Gerkens that we wanted to opt out. I'd like to see the three of you get together and say, today, vote and say, Mr. Gerkens, we're opting out. And I didn't like, I could be wrong on this, Mr. Gerkens, a veiled threat. You gave a veiled threat about disconnection of sewers and possibly water. My water bill is double out here than it is Toledo, because not only do I pay for the city water, but there's also a county charge. If you think you can threaten us that you're going to disconnect, then I want all my money back. Thank you. Please keep us separate.
Thank you.
I didn't want your garbage collection, and I certainly don't want your water runoff.
It's still with the county now.
I would like a couple comments on that, on your comments. First off, you know, we are at a big disadvantage here because we did not see any of Mr. Haddad's information. I believe it's unfair to paint Mr. Gerken in a picture that he's threatening, in a veiled threat or not, to discontinue the water. We're all just trying to figure out and address the facts as we see them. Certainly, some of the questions that were raised were appropriate. If we do form our own water and sewer district, would we have to disconnect? I mean, I didn't take that as a threat, but these are questions that we need answered. And because we didn't get any of this information prior to the meeting, we're all kind of scrambling, trying to figure out what's here and what's there.
Granted, when someone makes the comment that I said that Mr. Gerkens made, consider the source and consider what we're doing and trying to join up with. I wouldn't join up with people like that.
Well, we did join up in 2009. And so we have to request it from Mr. Gerken.
If we're in it, then why are they trying to sell it so hard to us?
You can, I guess.
That's the utility, Doug. They want to sell us the utility to get the money. We're already in the district for the Stormwater Coalition. It's the district that they want to start forming the utility to get the money from us to collect it as a utility, like gas, electric, water, stormwater is another utility.
I interrupted you, Mr. Genowine. I'm sorry.
Well, I just think that we're all trying to get to the same resolution here, and that's what's best for Sylvania Township. And, you know, it's unfortunate that this topic has been divisive and controversial here within the township, but again, I think it's because of the information and the communication. I mean, one of Mr. Haddad's biggest concerns or gripes about the county was their poor communication. When we're walking into a meeting with nothing and expecting to respond and expecting to be knowledgeable on these subjects, when, you know, I admitted at the last meeting, I'm not a stormwater expert, but I'm all for what's best for the township, and getting that information and getting those facts and getting them as I walk in here is not fair. It's not fair. Everything that I've seen on it, Mr. Haddad has had ample time to review and ample time to come up with his concerns and comments, but I'm getting this stuff put on me, and again, I'm happy that some of the stuff indicates we might be able to do this. I'm still not 100% that we'll be able to move forward, and I think the biggest hurdle is we would have to put a formal proposal, and that's something that we'll have to discuss if we want to do that and put it in front of the county commissioners. But, you know, it is very difficult to discuss and to debate numbers when somebody reads them off their laptop computer. I mean, I prefer, you're a businessman, if you own a 4,000 square foot warehouse in the city of Toledo, you know, you just don't jump along when somebody cites something and says something. You want to see this stuff in writing. You want to see their sources. You want to see, you know, where they got their information to formulate this plan. And to date, I've got nothing but the research I've done on it. And that's unfortunate.
Was the purpose today for the three of you to vote whether or not to go with Lucas County?
It was not. It was just to get information out.
Well then, to finish, then I would ask that the three of you please get together, put your heads together with your full-time staff, look at it, and regardless of cost, do not join Lucas County.
Well, are you willing to increase your general fund? I mean, because it
Yes,
looks
I am.
like if we went up, you know, the first year would be some, you know...
It's interesting, that comment came up, it's interesting that they were arguing, well, you don't have the legal authority to tax your people. Lucas County can. Why can't you?
We can.
I know. I haven't found a government agency yet that couldn't find some way to tax their residents.
You're right.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Carol?
Carolyn Huber, 5300 Brandy Lane, Sylvania. I would have to agree with the gentleman that I think that, given the circumstances, it would be certainly good sense to see if you can't get an extension for this. I mean, as he said, all this time has passed. What's another 3 months or 6 months? Surely somebody can give you an extension that you can be comfortable with the decision that you make, whichever way you make it. So I would certainly look into that. I would also point out that what we control ourselves is certainly better than giving control further out to other, up the government chain. I think that most of us believe that. And I would point you back to a few years ago, 2 or 3, as Penny talked about, and the creek. You folks weren't here, but some of us were. And we know that there is very, very serious flooding out there. And the county was contacted, and it was a blame game. The county said it was the township's job, the township said it was the county's job. Nothing got done until an election year. And when it was an election year, everybody got interested. And due to the work of one citizen, Penny, who went out and did what the county and the township should have done in cooperation together, people finally agreed the creek got cleaned out at what seems to be a fairly modest amount of money considering how long the creek had been left go. Now, the point was made, and Mr. Balmer, speak up if those numbers are wrong, but if the city of Sylvania spends $252,000 a year to keep, did you give him that figure or not?
No.
The figure that I heard that was correct was 35 cents.
I received it from Councilman Mike Brown.
She got it from Mike.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my source was wrong. Okay, if that is right, then that seems like a very reasonable amount of money. Yet the county, as I understand it, is going to get from the township $1.5 million a year, yet they're only set to spend $280,000 on the township over 3 years?
They're going to get almost $900,000 a year, Carol, and then it would be 1.8.
I believe it was $808,000 with the updated
That's-
figure that Mr. Early just provided us today.
But that's without Holland and these other areas opting out, because they've already sent in their letters and opt out. So if they're out, it's going to increase the fee for us. And as for your first question, we are already in the county's program till 2014. We can choose to opt out any time. The problem is once they start collecting on the utility, because of things up in 2014, so we could totally be on our own then. We don't have to renew with the county, because we have to sign another resolution saying we want to stay with them. If we get our information together, if we can do this, and we say we're going to choose to opt out by the end of this year, that we'd like to apply for our own permit, which would be good for the next 5 years, and they agree to that, and we form our own utility and start collecting the money as, we feel it would start out, then yes, we can do that. We don't have to ask for extension, because we're already in their permit for another 2.5 years, whether we want to be there or not, if we so choose to stay there till we're done.
Okay. Well, back to my point that it seems to me from the figures I've heard that the township is going to be a donor township. You're going to be paying in more than what you're going to be getting.
A lot more.
And
We're not going to get the almost $800,000 back.
How much was the Sylvania Metamora sewer project?
$800,000. The whole project with the road was $1.2 million.
But how much did we get in grant money towards that?
We've got probably about 40% was grant money.
There you go.
But this money is going to be in a fund, Mr. Early said, that is going to be totally separate, and it's not going to go out for roads, and it's not going to go out for other things. So you're going to spend, if you're going to collect $1.5 million a year from the township, you're going to spend $1.5 million a year on the township.
We're going to collect about $800,000.
Okay, $800,000.
A lot of the program, all those 6 minimum controls, each household benefits equally in the township the same as anybody else. So if you spend $500,000 on that, every household in Sylvania Township gets every bit as much benefit as any household in any of the other.
And what benefit is that?
Well, it's the things that you have to do to improve water quality and stop from degrading your streams. And everybody wants, most people here want to protect water quality. You don't want your streams to be polluted, do you?
Well, no, but I don't hear the specifics of what you actually do for that. I hear brochures and some ads in the paper. I just don't see where.
And you wanted to do TV commercials too, they said.
Where it's, where it's coming
We have more we can
back.
show on that. We can show all the.
Carol, I think you were at the regularly scheduled meeting where they gave their presentation, weren't you?
Probably.
Yeah.
I've been at a lot of them. My only point to you is that if you can get some time to look at this and really sit down and go through it before you make a decision, I would just not let the fact that, you've got to do this in 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months stop you from looking at all this stuff and making a decision that really works best for the township people.
Thank
What
you.
was the lady's name from the EPA?
Lynette?
Lynette, how many extensions have been granted, or what's the normal length of time that somebody from start to finish can get an approved stormwater plan in with the EPA?
As kind of to address the earlier comments about the 1987 amendments from Medicine Act that mandated that we regulate stormwater, have permits, MPS permits from our discharges. Between the Clean Water Act, USCP then had to quality rules. That took more time, and then there was time given to the states to draft our own rules because we have delegated authority that we pay in the state of Ohio to administer this program. So we do that, then we are just for permits. That's when we issued our first round of the MS4 permits that was issued in 2003. The first permit cycle gave 5 years to get the program up and running. 5 years are over, and 08, 09. 09.
Yep.
And so, at this point, Lucas County and others, the group, the Trustees, are all expected to be in compliance with the permit from here on out. As far as upcoming application, you have 180 days in the law to review.
6 months.
And either approve or deny a permit application.
How many pass on the first time through? Ballpark. Any?
We usually have comments, but sometimes, it's a commission, with these changes to be in compliance with the permit, go forth and do. Sometimes things are okay, go forth and do. But, again, we have 180 days statute-wise to review an MPS permit application to approve or deny it. So, as far as the extension of compliance, this group is not in a position to ask for an extension to be in compliance with the permit. It must be in compliance now.
So the minute we withdrew from the county plan, we would not be in compliance. Is that an accurate statement?
You would have to have your own permit coverage.
First.
And you would have to have your own stormwater management program, and it would have to be up and running.
Before we can opt out.
And, something to kind of to consider legally is, even if Ohio EPA sometimes says we'll work with you when you're not compliant, there is still an opening for third-party lawsuits, just so you guys are aware of that. So.
My wife can ask that question, and I think I heard the answer. I want to be sure, so there's no misunderstanding. You have 180 days to go through the permit process. You can't be out of compliance for 180 days from your point.
No.
Right, that does not negate the permits that you have to comply with the rules as they are today. So there is some exposure. The other part is, I would think, being under stormwater utility, your liability exposure is almost passed upward, off the township to the permit holder. So, but I mean, this is a lot of philosophical questions here, a lot of practical questions here. We'll set the record straight for the gentleman earlier. I didn't threaten to cut anybody off. I asked the question of the prosecutor, if they were to form their own water sewer district, would that require this connection? The answer is no. Nobody's considering that. We do need to, I would ask the board, as everyone else here, is to consider this in a timely manner. Here's the issue that we have for all the communities. And my application look out for all the communities as well as the centers. Data has to go to the auditor late July. It has to be scrubbed, it has to be accurate. We don't want to send bills that are inappropriate or inaccurate. I would ask that you respect that part of the process to take place. Could you maybe do this on your own? It's fraught with danger, unknown cost. We presented a plan. We have the experience. We have the staff. I believe we have the support of the EPA, who, again, from my hearing, has encouraged cooperative plans rather than individual plans. There is a policy, good public policy piece of this too here on valuing clean water, which knows no jurisdiction, covers all jurisdictions.
Okay.
But I think it's incumbent on you guys. This is a trustee issue now, not for me to say whether you should or should not. We've made a proposal, we've acted, we have a business plan, we have infrastructure, we have the data, we have the cost. This is a trustee vote. I just ask you to see the value of the big picture. No one survives in this situation.
John wanted to make a comment real quick. Go ahead.
My name's John Marshall. I represent District Precinct A in Savannah Township. I was going in the same time as you guys did. We've got a lot of people over District or Precinct A that are elderly, fixed incomes. We've got a lot of people that are laid off from other GMs and from GM other plants, things like that. There's a lot of people over there that simply can't afford any more money. And I think that we need to look at this and see if we can get some relief. If we can get some relief, we can get some relief. But I think Now, as far as the track record of Lucas County, I believe in the paper recently I read in the Blade that Lucas County is one of the 10 who were highest taxed in the state or the United States. I don't remember the headline exactly, but Lucas County is expensive as it is. And the track record, look at the airport. You can't get anywhere from the airport. Lucas County runs it. Look at the Port Authority and the docks. We're losing all kinds of shipping here because they're not maintaining the waterway or anything like that. I don't care how much money it is. We're just overtaxed constantly. And the people in precinct A cannot afford any more taxes. But I can tell you what they can afford is their vote. And they will vote you out of office and you out of this office if you don't do your job diligently. You come in here constantly ragging on Kevin Haddad, and you don't have a plan of your own. All you want to do is leave it up to the county. Well, the county does not have our interest, our veterans' interest at heart. They have the county's interest at heart. And if Mr. Gerken wants your money or our money, it's because he's going to appoint some political position to run that. That's what his interest is, like everything else. Now, I don't want the county in my back pocket any more than they are. And the county forced me to put in sewer, and I had to pay for it out of my pocket right up front. It cost me $14,000. I'm a disabled vet. I am on a fixed income. I don't have that kind of money, and neither do the people in precinct A. And that's how we're going to vote.
Thanks, John.
Well, first off, I would like to make a few corrections on Mr. Marshall's comments. I don't believe the county has anything to do with the Lucas County Airport, or not the Lucas County, but the Toledo Airport. They don't have anything to do with the Port Authority. So before you start throwing accusations out in a public meeting, I would, appreciate it if you had your facts correct.
Toledo Lucas County Port Authority, they do. But my final question, Lynette, we are in this with the county for the 5-year period. Once we start to apply, we don't have to be out of the counties till we get approval, correct?
Well, I think it's...
Till we receive our permit. Then we're on our own. So we're not going to be breaking any laws. We're not going to be sitting there hanging in the air. We're not going to not have a permit. If we apply now and we get everything accepted in 6 months, we just opt out of the county, we're done, correct? Because we'll have our own permit.
You can apply for your own permit.
There you go. So there's your answer about a permit.
Well, what happens if we spend a lot of time and resources, like we've already done, but additional?
We haven't spent
And the trustee, I believe I got an email this morning that said Mr. Zeitler has spent over 30 hours on this.
That's his job.
Well, you know what? He's got other things to do too than to chase down, your latest whim.
It's not my latest whim.
Okay.
I went to barber school, you didn't.
Well, maybe you can get that forwarded to you too, but what would be our next step, Kevin? Do we request? Do we request the county commissioners to either tell us that they will let us withdraw and then wait until we have everything in line, or what is our next step here?
Our next step would to be meeting to discuss this through the administrator, to get an application started, and get somebody who is going to fill out the forms for us and make sure that we have our plan in place. And there are people who do this for a living who will have a plan ready to submit within the 6-month period to the EPA. And then once that plan is submitted and they approve our $200 fee, we tell them we're opting out. We tell Mr. Gerken we do not wish to be collected on Sylvania Township for our money. And then if we have to borrow from the general fund from this, we will. We will pay it back once we start collecting our money and pay it back to the general fund. We're on our own, and we're done. It's a simple step. I mean, we can make it complicated. We could say, well, let's just let the county run it for the next 2 years while we get our own program in place. Or we can move forward and start our own program now, pay them for their time and materials that they have involved in us right now, and then just go on our own.
Again, Kevin, I can't thank you enough for your help. And John, you're right. And thank you for serving. But I appreciate it. But this is the thing. My thought is it's taken us 5 years for you guys to get this figured out. Okay? We're going to go ahead and spend $200,000, possibly, at least, out of our general fund, only to find out 6 months from now we may or may not have a plan, and we'll continue to get that going.
We will have a plan.
We may or may not.
We may or may not have a plan because we don't have a plan today. And all of them, Keith, 5 years or so, it's taken you guys off and on through this process, all the planning, all the GIS, all the programs that are put in. I know Don can do that, like Kevin had said earlier. So I look at it from the people of the township. My concern is, A, we're going to burn some money out of the general fund. Okay? B, We're going to try to ram something in that's been going on for 8 years, 5 years of design in 6 months. I got a concern with that, okay? And C, we've got a whole bunch of legal issues that we need to figure out if we can even do this. A, billing. And great work on Deerfield, Kevin, awesome job. Still don't know if that may not be correct.
That is correct.
Well,
That's our website.
Our attorneys feel it's different. And the 30 hours that John's looked through it, through the books, and again, I'm not here to cause any trouble, and I'm not disagreeing with your program. I think you're A for effort putting this together. I would love, as John said, I want to save the township money. I'm not here to raise money and do all these things. All I'm saying is we just need to be really smart and approach this like a business and make sure we're getting this thing down and we've got the numbers dialed in. Today, we don't have the numbers dialed in. I thought we came today and would have numbers dialed in.
The paperwork I gave you has the numbers, but you haven't even looked at it yet.
Yes, I have. I had a couple minutes before. There's no numbers. I was looking at it, again, I mentioned it earlier, the numbers that were dialed, I view the county as numbers dialed in. I don't look at this as numbers dialed in. And as I jokingly said, and I'm sincere about it, Kevin, we are running this like a business. And we are entrusted by the people to handle their money like we're running a business. And I'm just telling you what my gut tells us. I think we've got time to get this squared away. Let's go with the plan for now. And I would love to I'll help you get on the committee to help look at this, but to start pushing and start rushing over something that the stakes are too high. What if for some reason we don't get in compliance? And what if we have a claim? Let's say somebody sues us. Where is our insurance? Is that on our E&O we just spent $150 grand extra this year in Sylvania Township for our insurance plan because of a few claims that we had last year. Does that go in our insurance plan? How do we deal with that? I mean, there's just a lot of moving parts to get figured out in 6 months. That's my only concern. If we can get this done like really, really super quick and somebody can write a business plan, which I can't write a business plan, but okay.
John, real quick, go ahead.
Mr. Mahoney.
Neil, please.
We're very inclined with the city of Savannah. They have been.
It's a great question. It's a great point.
Our school systems are inclined.
Yes.
Fire department.
Yes.
And we could merge and do one entity. I'm saying.
I'm with you.
Anyway, why couldn't we merge that together? I mean, we have so many resources really sharing our property lines. And sometimes you can't tell where one and the other is, where one starts.
John, it's a great question, and you two correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a great question. That comes off the income. Their sewer bills are coming off the 2.5% income tax that they're collecting. We don't have an income tax out here. We make our money on real estate taxes. That's it.
Yeah, but we'd be able to collect these fees and then give them to the city.
Hold on, John's talking. What? I'm sorry?
The water through them, and we get the sewer through them.
Yes.
That's what I established.
These are the things that I'm saying. We've got a lot of moving parts.
Mr. Ballmer, would the city of Sylvania welcome us?
The problem that you got is that the city does not serve all the township with water and sewer.
Correct.
Lucas County serves a portion of the township with water and sewer. Lucas County serves a portion of the city of Sylvania with water. So it's kind of convoluted.
Can I offer not a suggestion?
Please.
Quick.
Now you're in a hurry.
You never let them talk at your meetings, but go ahead.
Look, the resolution that the Board of County Commissioners adopted for the creation of the stormwater utility, we said would be a 2-year look-see. And that we would have an advisory board. Let's do the math. It starts at 12. Means it would be back in place up again in 14, which is the year, obviously, the same that we run through the EPA with. Right now, you're in through 14, correct? Right. Prudent thing maybe for you to consider is that there is danger in trying to rush an EPA application through. I think we all know that. If Mr. Haddad's plan can be developed into a business plan that I think we probably want to see a little more dialed into, that's fine. But you have 2 years to do that. This is probably crudely more like a 2-year process than a hurry up and do it in 6 months process. If you're not opting out, on January of this year, your residents are going to be billed for the stormwater utility. I ask you to consider, might be, if you want to go your own way, take the couple years that you're still under our permit, anyways, and investigate the experience, and at the same time, evaluate what you're getting from the county's program. So I think the timelines kind of move together. We said 2 years, and we'll review it. We've held the rate for 2 years. We put together the advisory committee, which I'm sure you'd love to send Mr. Haddad to, and I'd love to have him working with us to do that. This gives you 2 years to try to get your program together if that's what you want to do. Reasonably evaluate the services you're going to get now, and give yourself a timeline, if you don't like this, to build your permit in a way that will protect your citizens and us.
Just a point on that committee, there is 3 Sylvania residents on that committee, just so you know.
I would like to acknowledge a few comments. That, number one, I think that is probably the most prudent way that the township can go, is to start the thorough review and in 2 years either have our own program be ready or to work with the county to tweak it and see what comes up. The other thing that Mr. Haddad, you brought out, which is a great point, is, I think if the 7 townships that are involved here all got together and this program rolled out smoothly and everyone was happy with it, let's go to the other municipalities that are out there on their own and see if we can't do a county-wide program. I mean, I think those things make sense, and, you're right on the money there. I think I have just always been concerned over the time restraints that we are on. With the end of the year coming up, it takes 180 days for the permit to be reviewed. I mean, that means we've got to have something in 2 weeks. And I just don't think that Mr. Huffman or anybody else we can pull in can get something together in 2 weeks' time.
The thing I'm going to say is that it's not like we're inventing a flying saucer and we're going to try to get it to go in space tomorrow. The problem is that there's so many municipalities, so many areas, townships that have done this, and it's been done since '06, that I'm sure we can get a plan addressed to, changed to, and meet our expectations for this area in less than 6 months. If I thought for 1 minute that we were getting into all new territory, and it was something that we could not figure out because it's a brand new thing, then I would agree with both of you that we are wrong. Let's stay with the county and develop our plan. If this was rocket science that, we need to go to Mars, you've got a point. This is something that everybody's doing. There's thousands of jets out there. It just depends on if we want a Boeing 747 or do we want a Cessna, citation. Depends on what you want to be in, and we can make sure it's going to meet the EPA compliance, get out of it, start collecting our money, and pay ourselves back. We are in their permit for 2 more years. We have 2.5 years. We have the option to opt out even within a year. I'm just saying if we want to opt out of the utility and get our portion going before they start collecting the fee on us. That's the only concern I have. And that's up to you too. There, that's it. You're right. Thank you. So with that, I think we should just end the meeting because we're going on and on.
I just had one comment.
Sure, Brian, go ahead.
These other costs that you see, the dollar number 2,
Yeah.
a lot of these don't have a very aggressive capital improvement program. We had the SWAG, the 20 group of people that were on the SWAG pushed us, and Penn was one of them, that wanted an aggressive drainage program. They didn't want to hear that we couldn't do anything. Our money is in the road right away, outside road right away. Those ditches are not the county's making unless it's put under maintenance. So we have an aggressive capital improvements program on here. These other ones do not. They're just hitting their EP permits. We said we do that. If they wanted that group, and the trustees were there, Mary Lynn was representing the trustees, do you want us just to do the NPS permits, MCM, those minimum controls to 6? We said, we'll just do those. If you want us to do that, we could have cut the price. We'd be down there too with them, if that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
But they said, no, we don't want our citizens to call and say, you can't come on here and help us, because we've got a log name, and, we need to answer and all this other stuff. Now, with the utility, we can go to the commission and say, hey, we can do this. They can give us that right of entry to go in there. We can compensate the property owners. We can do these ditch cleans that we need, storm sewer repairs at these townships. I've got 8 projects. The townships have done order surveys. They don't have the money to do it. They just don't have the money to do it. It's going to happen more and more. That's why we had the program. We could do it cheaper, but we're just hitting the minimum control. And you're not going to call us and say, we need this ditch clean or we need this log in. I just want you to see.
Brian, just to finish up, Deerfield has the biggest entity besides Cedar Point. They have Kings Island in their township. Kings Island is a huge expanse of blacktop area. And with that down, I'm just saying, they've done a lot of control measures, and this is part of their money. I've already researched this, so,
Yeah, I'm
just so you know.
but we have a strong capital program. I don't think that can happen.
So initially, you guys came out as kind of a design-build thing. Let's discuss different scopes, whatever, who wants to do what. If we wanted to handle the media, we could have handled the media, and the townships in 2009 said, let's go here.
Well, not the townships, even somebody in our audience was on that board, and then it was kind of misrepresented up here that, now she's opposed to it, so it is kind of, I don't know, again, the information being rolled out on the fly has been a problem with me, but we're here, and I think we can move forward.
Do we vote on this, John, or what do we do?
No, I just wanted to make one comment. This is a policy decision with the board, but they keep talking about the timelines. And my limited ability or knowledge of tax bills is that if we can always apply for the permit, we have to stay in the utility until that permit's granted. And then at that point, we would then, if the trustees so decide, to ask the utility district if we can withdraw from it. The problem is, for 2012, those tax bills go to the state of Ohio for affirmation by the state around October. So if we're in the utility in October, the utility will put those rates on our tax bills. So for 2012, no matter what, in my opinion, we are in the utility and should take the benefits of it. I think Commissioner Gerken, and once again, this is just Administrator, made an excellent point, and let's look at it and take time, but I just, in my mind, don't see how we will not be in the utility January 1, 2012, just because of the timelines. And as Trustee Haddad said, we're not reinventing the wheel, but we have no power over the EPA's timetable. If they want to take 6 months, they'll take 6 months. If they want to take 5 months, I mean, we can do everything right, but they can still take their time. We have no power over them. So just in my opinion, that in January 1, 2012, we will be in the utility. We should use 2012 as the year to do the study, research, whatever needs to be done, and then at that point, make the decisions. But I just, in my opinion, don't see how we can get the permit, ask the district to opt out of it, because we'd have to wait till we have that permit, because we cannot opt out until we have that permit. And that could be November, December. And then at that point, the tax bills are already set, and we will be paying that rate. So I think...
And before the state affirms them, the county has to recommend them, and you would need to know in August, or...
The auditor needs some time, obviously, to...
Get those permits in October.
The list. We have set aside money in our budget for a final scrubbing of the data to make sure that it is up to date when we give it to the auditor. The auditor's job is then to certify that data to the state, and then the state will take that certified list. To be fair to the other residents that are going to be involved, it's crucial we know what list we're going to send to the auditor, and before we start to re-scrub, make sure it's updated, you got to know who's in and out. If you vote to get out, and let's say the commissioners assent to that vote, and you're out before August, you don't have a permit.
But I'm going to finish up as a final comment on this. Depends on who your commissioners are for next year, and if the commissioners decide to let us out once we're in, I guarantee you that you're not going to get out. Mark my words. I'm just saying that as a final comment. Let's close the meeting, we're done.
Well, I'm just concerned that sometimes a lot of this stuff gets driven as political agendas.
Not political agenda,
And,
facts.
and with that, I would like to close this special meeting of the Sylvania Township Board of Trustees at 2:47.
Second.
Let's see here, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Okay.
On a separate subject, I did bring our annual report, it does have a small amount
Hey, John.
there on the...
Oh, good, we need some of that then.
On the stormwater building.
John, I'll come down and Carl.